In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the variable valve timing solenoid on this Ford Escape. This happens to have the 2.0 liter engine. Let's get into it. Take the wiper arms off, just use a pick. We'll take this little cover off on the side. Just get underneath there, pop that cover off. Using a 15mm socket, take this nut off. Grab the arm, you just want to rock it back and forth, get it to separate. Slide that off out of the way. Do the same on the other side. I'm going to take these clips off, just use a pick, get underneath the clip. These ones over here have like an extra clip. Get underneath there, pop those out. And grab this cowl and just lift up. There you go. It's just clipped in underneath. Those clips just push down. Using a T25 socket, we're going to take these two screws out. And that's just going to sit right there. Using a 8mm socket, take these screws out. That's loose, then do the same on the other side. Now grab this panel, and it pulls right out. Now we're going to disconnect the battery. There's a cover right here. Pull that cover off. The negative is on this side. Just use a 10mm wrench. Loosen that up. And disconnect that and set that aside. Remove the engine cover just underneath. Just grab and pull up. Just some grommets holding it in. Loosen up this worm clamp right here. I'm going to use a 7mm socket. That's good right there. Using an 8mm socket, loosen up this worm clamp. Good. Disconnect this hose. There's a tab on the top and a tab on the bottom. Just squeeze those. You can release it. Slide that off. There's one bolt right here. Take that bolt out. Use an 8mm socket. And grab this snorkel. And it comes right off. On the back, there's a pipe right here. You just want to squeeze the tabs to release it. And that comes comes off. You just squeeze right there and that separates. Remove this bolt, use an 8mm socket. Remove this tab, use a 12mm socket. It's just plastic. Take that out. Now we're going to use a 7mm socket, loosen up this worm clamp down here. And we'll just loosen up this worm clamp. All right, that's good. It's loose. Grab this snorkel, wiggle it, and slide it out. We're going to disconnect the connector on the back side here. There's a little cover over it. We're going to pop that off. Disconnect the connector, just push down on the tab and slide that off. Just using a trim tool, I'm just going to pop this retainer off. And then further down, there's another retainer. Take that off. Disconnect the connector for these solenoids. Push down on the tab. If you need to, you can use a pocket screwdriver. There we go. Pop those off. And slide this retainer up. Disconnect this connector here, push down. And same with the other coil. It's another retainer here. Pop that up with the trim tool, very straight blade screwdriver. Disconnect the connector for this solenoid. And the other coil. Another retainer over here. Pop that up. Disconnect the connector for this coil. Disconnect the connector for the cam sensor. And there's another retainer right there. Pop that up. Just follow the wires and disconnect those connectors. I'll disconnect this connector right here. Just push down on the tab, slide that off, and you can see there's a retainer around this pipe. And you can see where the map sensor is. We're going to disconnect that sensor. Just push on that tab, slide that out. And then if you follow the wire back a little bit further, there's another connector underneath here. And disconnect the connector down here at the high pressure fuel sensor. And slide that wire out. Now I'm just going to use some pliers, move this clamp over, take this hose off. Just try to twist it back and forth. And using some pliers, I'll just twist that off, set that aside. You can grab this solenoid, just slide it up. And there's hoses in the back that are pushed onto retainers. You just got to slide those up as well. And we'll just slide that out of the way. Just tuck that back there. Now we're going to remove the coils, use an 8mm socket. Take these studs and bolts out. And before we pull the coils out, I'm just going to label them. It's a good idea to put them in the same location as you took them out. Just use a crayon or a marker. And twist them a little bit. And they slide right out. I'll just pop this hose off. Squeeze the lock tabs. That off, and the connector back here. Just want to push down on the tab, take the connector off, using a 8mm socket, take this bolt out. Pull the cam sensor out. And you want to make sure you separate these because we're going to take the front one out as well. And take this one out. There's a little dirt and debris here, so I'm just going to spray it with some compressed air. Take the dipstick out. And the oil cap. I'll take this tab off, use a 12mm socket, loosen that up. Set that aside. Now we're going to take the bolts off for the valve cover, use an 8mm socket. And these bolts are caged, so they're not coming out. There's a bracket over the last stud on the back. You need to take the bolt out from down below. Use a 13mm socket. You have to reach down. And take that bolt out and lift this bracket up. Just slide it off the stud and out of the way. And take this bolt out. Make sure that's loose. Again, that's caged like the other ones. I'll just get underneath the valve cover using a pry bar. Just pry up. There we go. It's hard to get where these seals are. Pry up around those solenoids. Using a 8mm socket, take the screw out. Just grab the solenoid. Just twist it back and forth and slide it out. And you want to take some clean engine oil and just coat this part of the sensor that's going to go into this bracket. That's good. Put the screw in. Snug that down. Now we're going to torque this bolt to 89 inch-pounds. And you can do the same procedure for the rear VVT solenoid. We're just going to clean up the gasket area. I use a little brake parts cleaner and a rag. Just wipe it. If it's real bad, you can use a scraper. Just try not to wipe anything into the engine. Try to wipe away from the engine. And use a razor blade or a scraper for anything that's caked on there. Just be careful. There's a little RTV in the corner here. I'm just going to take a little RTV, and there's two areas on the side here. You can see a little rectangle. Just put a little RTV on it. That's where the front case half meets, where the head and the timing cover meet. And then back here on the corners, just a little bit. Just in the corners. Just so it seals up good. Slide the cover over. You can put a little oil on these two seals. Might help slide over a little better. There we go. Get all the bolts started. Just get these so they're all about finger tight. Now we're going to torque these in sequence to 89 inch-pounds, starting with this one, number 1 in the middle. Number 2 is over here. Number 3 is in the back. Number 4 is right next to the dipstick hole. Number 5 over here. Number 6 back here. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10 in the middle. Number 11. And then number 12. 13. And 14. There you go. Take this bracket, line that over the stud right there, get it lined up down below, and get that bolt started. And we'll tighten that down. And snug that down. That's good. I'll put the dipstick in. Take the oil cap, get that started. And the knob, get that threaded on. I'll just snug that down. And just snug that down. Take the cam sensor, line that up. You put a little lubrication on the O-ring. This is the exhaust one. I labeled that E. Get the bolt started. And snug that down. Do the same on the front one, the intake one. Get the bolt started. Tighten that down. The coil packs, get those lined up. Make sure you put them in the correct order. Now we're going to put the studs in. Those are going to go on the outsides. And then the regular bolts are in the middle. And we'll tighten those all down. Snug those down. Now take this valve, get that in the right location, get the retainers pushed in. That's lined up. This hose is going to go over. Move the clamp over. Now just take the wiring harness, slide that back, and get the wires lined up. Make sure it's in the right location. That looks good. Now we're going to start plugging it in. Plug the connectors in. Push the retainers down. connectors for the coils. Connector for the solenoid. Clicked in. Those look good. It's all in place. Now these wires over here, I'm gonna line these up. Get the map sensor in, connect that, connect this connector. Put this clip over the hose and the high pressure fuel pump down here. Connect that connector. Lock it in. And take this hose, line that up, and connect the connector right above the exhaust. And push this cover over. Hook up the retainers. Should be one right there. This one's broken, that's okay. Now take this pipe and slide it down. Get this lined up here. Take this tab and the bolt, and we'll tighten those down. Snug that down. And snug that one down. And tighten down this worm clamp. All right, tighten that down. And I'll put this pipe on, get that lined up, lock that down. Now take this pipe. Slide that in place. Connect this pipe to that pipe. That's good. And take this screw, get that started. I'll tighten that down. I'll tighten up this worm clamp. Just snug. I'm going to tighten down this worm clamp. Just snug. That's good. And take the negative terminal, put that on, and we'll snug that down. Give it a wiggle, that's tight. And take the cover and reinstall it, lock it down. Take the engine cover, line it up, and push it down. Take the shield, line it up. It's good. And take these bolts, get those started. And we can tighten those down. Snug, that's good. Snug that down. And put these two screws in. Hold the reservoir up. Get that lined up. Tighten those down. good. And take this panel, slide it in place, put these clips in. I'll put the wiper arms on. Make sure they're in the same place on the windshield when you took them off. Put the nuts on. Tighten those down. Then you'll put the cap on. Do the same on the other side. Snug those down, put the cap on. You're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.